This is the APD Pod Squad. I'm Rick Rice, and coming up in this episode, Captain Joe Silberman of the Criminal Investigations Division. We're going to recap some of the recent big cases that were assisted by technology like LPRs and drones. We'll get to know K-9 unit officers Sgt Muse and Senior Police Officer 2 Nathaniel Smitty Smith. Sgt Muse leads the unit, and Smitty is getting acquainted with K-9 Hardy, his new partner, and Property and Evidence Manager John Perez. His prior law enforcement experience with another agency provided him with a solid foundation for his current job with APD. He also provides a valuable service, assisting with Spanish translations for our media releases. He's also a diehard hockey fan like me, so we'll get into that. It's all coming up on Season 2, Episode 18 of the APD Pod Squad. Joining me now is Captain Joe Silberman of the Criminal Investigations Division, and you guys have had some impressive wins lately. Some great work by your detectives with an assist to technology. First of all, Captain Silberman, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Rick.
Let's talk about some of these cases and how technology came to play a big part. There was 2 rape cases. One was local, and the other was a cold case assisting the folks from Charlotte. Let's start with the local one.
Well, we actually had 2, same weekend, same area, but unrelated, that the Family Justice Center team flipped very quickly, unusually quickly for the type of case it was. We take these kind of assaults extraordinarily seriously. While there's always a lead detective that manages that case, that sort of leads the investigation, they have a super supportive team, and part of it is they know who to ask to tap in when they need to, and both detectives did an extraordinary job in their cases.
So what kind of technology played a key role?
License plate readers, being able to know who's coming and going. And while this is new technology sort of in the law enforcement realm, it really just supports an old investigative technique. And all investigative techniques fundamentally are a century old. All our new technology sort of supports the canvas, knocking on doors and asking, hey, who did you see in the neighborhood? Who was here? Was one of our first techniques. And really, nobody pays attention to anything anymore. So that's become the human intel has become a lot harder in that respect. But the advent of technology, of cameras in places and advancing our cameras with license plate readers has really just supported that ancient technique, and they used it to great effect. They got a license plate, they got a car. That led them to a registered owner of the car who definitely wasn't our suspect, and they did basic investigation. They found that the registered owner of the car was a woman. She had been assaulted by her domestic partner. That morning, he stole her car. And while Charlotte was looking for the car and taking her assault report, she was strangled too, and firming up their own warrants, he had come to Asheville, and he committed an assault here and then fled back to Charlotte. And they actually pulled him over along the way because he was going some outrageous speed. But they end up seizing the car, they get it back to its rightful owner, and he's sitting in jail under the Charlotte charges. When our people find out about this, we contact Charlotte. We have great relationships with other agencies across this country. And so Charlotte MEC, in hearing that their case was bigger than they thought it was, then tags in for us and starts doing work in our case remotely, sending us what they have, but also making contact with him and getting statements from him for us. And we're able to firm up our end, work with the survivor, and confirm the identification that came essentially, that the seed that grew from the license plate reader ID. And once all that was in effect, we were able to get our own warrants for second-degree rape.
Yeah, like I said, back in the day, maybe when there was less people around and people would notice vehicles where they didn't belong or whatever, it would be somebody telling you that. Like, yeah, I saw a blue Chevy such and such traveling this road. At what time did you get a license plate? I got the first couple of letters. Now we have the technology, the license plate readers that can do that for us.
Yes. Yeah, and it's essentially a surveillance camera, but it's connected to a certain level of intelligence.
That's a big win. For the victim to know that person is now no longer a threat to them, that's huge.
And he victimized 2 people in a day's time. And so this is a big win for everybody to have this person at least And it is temporary, but have this person like temporarily on hold. It's a big win for all our safety.
We've talked a lot about technology lately. It's been in the forefront. People have seen it in the media. It made its way to City Council because of an RTIC grant that was paused, and we've spoken with Chief Stepp and some others about this, and we would like to highlight some of these instances where that it has meant that somebody has been caught, because people wonder. They're like, yeah, what are you doing with this anyway? What are you getting with this?
So, but this is nothing new. And with the advent of cameras now, at first they're easy to spot, right? The camera was essentially the size of like, a rocket launcher attached to a pole, very conspicuous, right?
Yeah.
The footage was usually pretty grainy and terrible, right? At night it was unusable. But even when I got into this job, part of the canvas that I was taught to do as a young detective was still walk around and look for cameras. Where might there be an outward pointing camera? And they were usually hard to find, like if something happened in front of a gas station. Sometimes you had something pointed at pumps where you'd get something good, but a lot of times a house camera's pointing at the house. Nobody's filming their own street, because in the end, nobody has really like an outward interest to surveil everybody else, right? But we would do those canvases, and over time in my career, you started to see cameras getting smaller and smaller. And then as a detective supervisor, cameras were real small in that I'd tell people like, okay, go door to door and see who has a Nest camera, one of the little doorbell cameras. And we've made cases off of those before, off of uninvolved people who, because it is pointing towards the road. And sometimes it will switch on and with movement and catch something. And even if it's just telling us a car drove past here at a certain time. But the game changer came when somebody had the foresight to put all that together with some level of computer program or computer intelligence to say we're gonna put one that looks for cars, and it just memorizes vehicle tags and tells you when they were here. It became the perfect witness. It tells you what it tells you. It doesn't tell you who's driving the car. That still requires a human to investigate. But it definitely tells you that license plate was probably there. And you have to lay eyes on it and make sure, did it read one of the numbers wrong? Is it proper? And that's the first thing we do. But I couldn't tell you a false positive has not come to mind. It's something that we still scrutinize heavily. But each time it's like, yeah, there's our car. The one that sticks out in my mind, we had a multiple homicide on Leicester Highway at a recording studio. And it was, he's a sergeant now, but Brandon Shope was in light duty in CID at the time. And we had hours and hours of footage from different places. We had done the canvas. We had picked up footage from here, there, and everywhere. And there was just so much to look over. And, our lead detective was in the field. He's doing interviews with people. And we had a few people dead in an apparent robbery, tons of witnesses, but spotty on what everybody saw and remembered, right? There was some conflicting things. It's just the human aspect of what you could recall in trauma and under stress, right? The camera doesn't have that problem. It records what it records. If it's a grainy camera, it's a grainy camera. If it's not, it's not. And it's honest in what it has. And so we stuck Brandon watching all this footage. And he combs through it. He gets the best stills of our suspects he could get. And they're little things like who's wearing what, who's how tall, who has like a distinguishing feature that's noticeable, like he's got some kind of tattoo over here, something like that. He eventually finds a suspect vehicle, right? No tag. I don't think he found a tag, or maybe it was a partial. But he starts looking at the unique identifiers of the vehicle. Front end damage here, like a bumper sticker here, and the vehicle becomes unique from all that damage. It's become its own fingerprint. And he gets up with the lead investigator, and they go hunting, and they find the vehicle. Turns out to be an incredibly important piece of evidence. Now you've got license plate readers. The license plate readers now actually do that for you. You could say like, hey, we need to look for things with roof racks and bike racks and unique damage in places and bumper stickers here and there. And it will give you that unique vehicle that you as the investigator, the human aspect, could look over and say like, yes, this is relevant, or no, this isn't what I'm looking for. But just an incredible resource.
Captain Joe Silberman joins me now, Criminal Investigations Division. I'm one of the last ones probably on my block or in the city to come on board with the Ring cameras in their front. Everyone's got them now, right? Which is awesome because you can see what's going on in your neighborhood. We have a very safe neighborhood. We haven't caught any crimes. We have caught some bears and some other things on our camera. We mostly got it for deliveries. and things of that nature, see when things are being delivered to the house in the world of porch piracy and all of that. But these cameras are everywhere. They're in businesses, they're in homes, and some of the people that seem to object to cameras at the Asheville Police Department recognize the value of them in their own home. And so we're trying to show them the value of it to the Asheville Police Department with a lot of guardrails.
I think it's important that we communicate with guardrails and the ethics that we have in place and the scrutiny that we do internally well beyond what the bare minimum that the law requires. It's something fundamental to us as Americans, right? And our personal freedom. So it's really on us. We need to communicate properly and explain how we use these to people. But in the end, it is more benign than people. I get the picture. There are people who think that there's this nefarious watching that's being done. We scrutinize that, just like we have access to a lot of personal information. And especially in my house and at my rank now, like one thing I'm over is the scrutiny of who's using systems and who's accessing it and for what, and is it appropriate? And there are layers in place, just like there are layers in place for the cameras.
So we'd mentioned the one win that you actually rolled into another win. Let's talk about a cold case.
So at the same time, we're juggling our local offender and Charlotte. We've actually been trying to help out their cold case unit. They popped up a couple months ago, I think it was in October of last year, and they said, hey, we have we did genetic genealogy, another like wild miracle of science for police. They did genetic genealogy on a sexual assault for an unknown offender. It was a burglary, breaking and entering to a home where a woman was assaulted. And man in a mask, just the horror story that a lot of women like fear. And a terrible event for that person. These cases, just like in our house, these cases don't die. You know, they get shuffled here and there. And we're always trying to throw new spaghetti at the wall. And Charlotte did that, and they got a genetic genealogy hit. It requires human eyes. They had to follow up on it, and they had a pool of potential offenders or suspects, and they were able to whittle that down into one person who was in Asheville. And so they popped up here, and they said, hey, we have this guy. We believe he's in Asheville. We don't know where. He's potentially unhoused, and we need you to acquire his DNA, but we don't want to show our hand. So you have to legally acquire it, so he has to discard it, and you have to find it. You have to be able to confirm it's his, and we don't want him to know because we're gearing up for an interview, and we would like to get him in his most genuine state.
Very cloak and dagger type stuff.
Yeah, and it's honestly like, it's not unusual. This is like not a unique tactic. It's something that is like, oh, of course, one of those to us. Like, we understand when you do your offender approach, when you approach for an interview, you want to really control all aspects of it, the environment. So, honestly, wasn't an unusual request. But we get it, and I happen to be briefing the other divisions. Just, we'll mention bigger investigations or especially outside investigations, and I mentioned that. And there was a lieutenant from another division who said, hey, I know that guy, and I know where he might be. And he gave us a lead. So I have a street crimes unit. They're proactive detectives. Basically, they start circling the area, looking for ways to conduct surveillance and not get caught. It's difficult because it was a smallish community with a lot of eyes around. And so new things will stand out. And they laid eyes on them but had to pull back or they'd be made. And so their solution was, well, we just put a drone up in the air. Our offender was on public property, and so we put a drone up in the air, and it wasn't long before we saw him starting to smoke a cigarette. And it's like, okay, we'll see if he keeps the butt or if he doesn't. And he didn't. He flicked it. And so he keeps on walking. The drone stays with the butt, because that's all we really want, and films a detective walking up and bagging that butt for us. Charlotte was down pretty quick. They were shocked at how quickly we were able to do it. And we gave him that cigarette butt. And I was wondering about it for like a month or two, but I know these things like DNA testing takes a while.
Yeah, it takes time.
So we end up forgetting about it. And they pop up one morning and say, hey, it's confirmed. We got our warrants in place, serious warrants. And they said, hey, we'd like for you to get him. We'd like for you to bring him to an interview room, and we'll hustle up there because we're going to execute a warrant for his DNA. Because, again, not unusual that you want to confirm it. You can't go off just the cigarette butt alone. That gets you to the next step.
Right.
But it's enough to get warrants for his arrest too. And so we said, okay, we hit up that unit again, and they started their surveillance, and were able to pick him up in about an hour and a half, and Charlotte hustles up.
So how old was that case for them?
It was a cold case from 1999.
1999.
Yeah, Eric Lee Howard was the guy's name.
And so he's in custody, obviously, now in Charlotte.
So he never even went to the Buncombe County Jail. They transported him back to Charlotte day of.
So what is he looking at charges-wise?
It's pretty serious. It's first-degree burglary, first-degree kidnapping, second-degree sex offense, 2 counts of second-degree rape, and then an attempted second-degree sex offense.
So how old is the guy now? He's got to be in his 40s, 50s, 60s?
He's got to be in his he's born in 77.
So that makes him about 49, 48, whatever it happens to be. So he's looking at a long time behind bars, hopefully maybe most of the rest of his life based on what the guy's done. That's great work there. Another piece of technology, and our piece of that technology puzzle, the drones, doing some great work there, helping you with that.
It's a surveillance camera.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's a surveillance camera. It's just you choose when it is. It's got limitations in that it's got a battery. So if you don't mind it, it will fall out of the sky. But it's a surveillance camera you can put where you want. With that, there is a pretty big asterisk next to its use, because we can't put a surveillance camera anywhere. We have to be very, very careful where you put it. And the layers that are in place there, and there are a number of them, we don't just throw the drone up in the air willy-nilly. The supervisor knows about it. They know why we need it for that. They know what we're doing, and there's a plan on its use.
Specific purpose.
Very specific purpose. And we are in contact with our beyond the bare minimum of the law, which we do get broken down for us. The city attorney put together a document that's really helpful, that keeps us up to date, and we constantly review, hey, do we need to make any changes? But internally, we have what is beyond the bare minimum that the law sets. What is the ethical use of this item? How would we want this used? We're not outside of society. We're members of it too. Mm-hmm. And so we're very careful. We train on it, and we scrutinize its use. And there are audits in place for its use.
One more big win before you take off, and I appreciate you coming in, Captain Joe Silberman. We had a huge bust that was part of a bigger case, but it led to the largest fentanyl seizure in the history of Buncombe County.
I didn't know which one you were going to do, the large fentanyl seizure, or we had the jewelry heist, because
we got a lot of stuff going on.
We made both of those using tech.
Let's hold on to the jewelry heist, because that one looks like it's going to go a little further.
Yes.
So we'll talk.
I was going to say that one's not done yet.
Yeah, that one's not done yet. So it looked like that one's going to go a little bit further. But yes, technology with that one. The fentanyl seizure.
So we'd been using Tip 411 for a while. Excellent program. Interesting concept. It is a one-way blind reporting system. So you could fire off tips. The trouble with what we had been using, which was you call in tips, is people don't necessarily trust that their phones won't be tracked, which our tip line, we weren't doing that. But also, a lot of our tipsters, they're not experts in the law. They aren't familiar with the investigative process. The information they would give us would be limited or incomplete. And they wouldn't know you don't know what you don't know. And they wouldn't know what they were sitting on. And there are all these little elements to our tradecraft, and there are little fine points to elements of the law. And what our Tip 411 does is it allows a one-way blind but two-way conversation, in that a detective could fire back, hey, this is great. You don't happen to know X, Y, and Z. And maybe they know X and Y, and that gets that detective a little further. It adds credibility to the tip, so it's going to be a little extra in a search warrant maybe, or it's going to lead that detective to a database they might not have checked, or change the way they search, or uncover something hidden that we might not have gotten to. And it's led to many cases getting solved, but that area, the area where we made that bust, Gaseous Creek, we'd been working for a while, notoriously hard to work. Very, very hard to not stick out like a sore thumb. Very limited in where we could set up and how we could set up. And so we were having a lot of trouble with it. We did try drone for a while. Not very effective. Again, we're limited by battery and distance, sort of falls out of the sky. Your launch area calls a ton of attention to itself, and it does make noise where it's at. So over a crowded city with traffic, you could hide that thing. In a sleepy rural neighborhood, sticks out like a sore thumb.
And that's what Gashes Creek Road is.
Yeah.
It's rather rural.
So we're having a lot of trouble around that, and we were working some of the tip 411 information. And it led to surveillance, which led to a vehicle stop, which led to a vehicle seizure. And we actually put it on ice. We didn't think there was anything in that car. We seized like an RV and some other things that we figured like, okay, our evidence, the good evidence is going to be elsewhere, not in the small car. And so we chip away at that for the first day or two. And as we're moving through executing search warrants, we get to the small car and there's just our offender who is wrapped up in jail under other warrants, but that's where the offender kept his treasure.
And a lot of it, too.
A lot of it.
So multiple guns.
6 to 1, half dozen of the other. It was, he was hiding death in that car. Fentanyl is poison. It's just as dangerous as guns. I watch it kill people all the time. The guns, again, totally respect people's rights and the Constitution. I avail myself to them, too. But it's responsible people. And if you are in the drug game, pushing poison out, we don't want you to have guns like this. We don't want you to have guns, period.
So this is another great example of the community directly contributing to a positive, cleaning up their community of this killer, quite frankly. We put this little note on the end of all of our press releases. It's like, if you have information about this, use tip 411, or if you know of crime in general, use, and I'm sure it becomes white noise to some people, and others have probably said, hey, does anyone even use it? Well, yes.
So they totally use it, and as a matter of fact, part of my role as supervisor during homicides is I look and I see like, hey, how many leads do we have? I try and get personnel in as much as I could throw at the problem. But then I look at like, how many leads do we have? So not only do you need personnel, but they need to be gainfully employed. They need work to do. And if the work starts looking thin, or I'm worried it's going to get thin, that's where I see like, hey, what could I share the public? How could I blow on these embers and start a fire? And I'll call the PIO sometimes at 3 a.m. to say like, hey, check your email. I need you to push something out now, in the hopes that somebody will see it first thing in the morning and get on that tip line. And you'll have detective supervisors that just are constantly like pulling out their phones, hitting refresh, hoping we get a tip in. And more often than not, it works.
Yeah, we've seen it work. And we saw it in this instance where community members saw something and they said something that we ask all the time. And it works when you have a system like this, too. Like you mentioned, the two-way communication that's also anonymous. Yes.
It's really handy when people talk back. Unfortunately, we have to triage them. We get a lot of tips. And what gets you closer to obviously there's a level of exigency, and we consider other factors like amount of violence in the area and things like that. If we have enough where, hey, we're able to validate this in these different ways before we even leave the building, that gets you close to the top of the pile, right? Having just a lot of juicy information for us to sink our teeth into definitely makes it a lot easier versus, hey, I have this tip, it's probably good, but I'm going to have to burn like a couple staff hours into getting what we need, or we have this one we could just go now.
Yeah.
And it just becomes a staff management puzzle.
Captain Joe Silberman, thank you so much for coming by, sharing some of your stories. We're going to hold on to that jewelry heist and have you back in here soon as that one continues to develop.
Detective Boyanovsky would be good for that one. He has done amazing work in that case.
Boy, he's hit the ground running in your department. He started off as an intern, and he got that one with all of the scams in the apartments, and now this one.
Detectives working the sexual assault were interns, too. It's becoming par for the course now, but Detective Madison Johnson, who's second generation. I worked with her dad in CID. She's second generation detective. She is just an outstanding investigator and absolutely hit the ground running on that, just basically tapping in whoever she could to get her the intelligence she needed. And she put it all together, and she did it in basically a week. And these kind of cases, the expectation is, hey, don't hold your breath. It'll be, charge-wise, month to 6 months sometimes. We maintain a large cold case. Everybody's heard of the sexual assault kit backlog. We send our kits to the state, and sometimes it takes a while to come back. Sometimes it comes back really quick with no hit, and you have to wait months or years for a hit. She did what she needed to do to get the elements of probable cause together to have a judge say, yes, you've got a warrant.
Your team is doing some great work. Keep it up. Captain Joe Silberman, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Rick.
I'm joined now by Sergeant Sgt Muse and Senior Police Officer Nathaniel Smith. Call him Smitty. We just had a brief conversation. There's no middle name. There's no shortening of the name. It is just, please, Smitty, right?
That's it.
And so we're here today to talk about our canines. Smitty, you've got a new one. Sergeant Muse, you're in charge of the unit. How long has that been the case?
12 years.
Okay.
I've been in it for 21, over 21. I'm in my 22nd year of it.
Wow.
Yeah, and I've been here 25 years, so most of my entire career has been canine stuff.
Smitty, how about you?
I am going on my 9th year.
All right.
Flown by.
Flies by, doesn't it,
Yeah.
though?
Oh, yeah.
And how long have you been with APD? Have you been with the canines most of the time?
I'm on my 12th year.
Okay, so almost the whole time.
Yep.
No, so what I know is it's a coveted position.
It is.
Everyone seems to, whether they know it or not, have even been a part of it, they want to be a part of the canines because they think, oh, I get to play with a dog all day long.
Yep.
Which obviously it's a lot more than that.
It's way more than that.
Yeah, so let's get into this. I know you've got a new canine, Smitty, and we'll talk about Hardy here in just a few minutes, but let's talk about the unit in general. First of all, these dogs are highly trained.
They are.
But they're part working dog, but they're also just part dog. Good boy, right?
Yeah. We try to pick a dog with a good temperament so he can be a dog at home. He can be a work dog at work, and you have to have that switch. They're always on the go, always on the hunt, so they don't make good pets per se. But if you know how to handle the dog, you can allow him to have a little downtime at home and just chill and not be, feeling like he's got to search and do this and do that. Mine loves the couch. He piles up, eats his ball, falls asleep. He has a stuffed frog. He's had a stuffed frog for a very long time. It's the only toy he won't tear up, and he sleeps with it like a little baby.
How many times have you had to replace that, though?
No, it's the same.
The same frog?
For whatever reason, he will not tear up his frog.
Wow.
Everything else, he eats the squeaker out of it.
Okay, but he's kind of semi-retired, almost fully retired
he's,
now,
he's
right?
kind of our office pet
So
right
that's
now.
Iago, right?
That's Iago.
That's
Okay.
a Malinois, so there you go.
Yeah. So how old is Iago?
13 and a half.
All right, so that's, he's just kind of, he just wants to chill at this point.
He does, but he's got that mental kick going on where he thinks he needs to be part of something. He gets upset if he doesn't get in the car to go with me when I go places. So I bring him to work. He chills out in the office, visits everybody, and he's a good PR tool. He's super chill, likes to get petted on.
So with Iago's time kind of as a working dog winding down, and your career with the APD is kind of winding down, that's the last dog for you, right?
That's going to be the last one for me. The time it takes to create what I like in a dog, too less time to go for me. I think I'm 2 years away.
Because obviously you guys, you grow a personal attachment.
Yeah, it's hard to describe that attachment. I spend all day at work with this dog. Smitty does too with his dog. And then you go home and you feed the dog. You give it, if it needs medication, you've got to give it exercise. It can't be pent up all the time. Provide vet care, do all the different things with it. It's just like another extension of your family. It's like having another kid at home.
And unfortunately, a dog doesn't live forever. So
No.
the sad part of it is at some point they're going to pass.
They are, and that's the saddest part. It's hard. I'm on my third one, and I've got a good long working life out of each of them. But it's a difficult time, and I'm nearing that now, and I see it coming. I know it's coming, and it's I'm trying to prepare myself for that. But how do you prepare for that?
Yeah, that's kind of
It's
tough.
Yeah.
Smitty, I know that not too long ago you lost one.
Yep, Bolo.
That was Bolo, right?
Yep.
Canine Bolo.
Yeah,
Big boy.
8 years.
8 years with Bolo?
Yep.
I mean, I've had dogs. We've had all kinds of pets before, but I've never had that connection where you guys have them where you're with them all day long.
Yep.
Yeah.
All day, all night. And I'm sure this is a question a lot of people ask. I kind of know the answer, but let's get it out there. You live with the dog. The dog lives with you.
Yep.
It's your dog for all intents purposes.
Yep.
So you need a little bit, I would guess, a little bit of land, I would guess, right? A little bit of place for them to be outside.
Yep. I have over an acre, so they have a good running area, play around area.
Is there anything at your house that almost serves as like a training thing in the backyard, like where he needs to, okay, let's get outside and do something with you because you need some.
Well, with Hardy, he's always wanting to work, so the minute he gets out of the car, he feels like he has to work. So wherever he goes, whether it's home or work, he's going to try and do something working-wise.
So Canine Hardy is, Smitty, your newest canine.
Yes, sir.
And you've had him for how long?
Almost about a month right now.
A month?
Yep.
And they get professionally trained. These dogs go through intense training. Isn't that right, Sergeant?
They do. These dogs, from the time they're born, they get selected by somebody, and they determine, do you have the right drive and all the different things they look for. And so this dog, from the time it's a little puppy, goes through a variety of exercises the first year of its life to get used to slick floors, dark rooms, jumping on things, hunting for things. And you usually start that with food because it's something the dog wants, he needs. And so you teach him to hunt for food, and then you can kind of develop that into hunting for a toy. And then in its latter stages, right before Smitty gets the dog learns the toy and the odor get paired together. So you can have a bomb dog. I have a narcotics dog. You have to pick what odor. You can't obviously do both. And so that dog, its whole life is being trained to do something, whether it knows it or not. We just make games out of it. And that's the whole key to successful training is the dog thinks he's playing a game. I'm looking for a toy. That's all the dog cares about. I'm looking for my food or my toy. They don't care if they're a bomb dog, if they're a drug dog. That doesn't matter to them. They just know one of those odors creates the fun thing in my life.
I think Hollywood has lent us to believe that the dogs know there's a greater mission, but really it's
They
just...
don't. It's just a game. It's just a game. And that even goes into the apprehension side of things. We teach that with a little tug, and then we work that to a sleeve and to a full suit, and it's just a game. It's just something fun for the dog to do. It's a lot of fun for the dog to do, but they're not aggressive. They don't view that as an aggressive exercise. Now, if you come up and shove me, he's going to think that's part of the game, and you might get a little more edge out of the dog. But it's just a big game. It's something to grab a hold of and chew on. The dogs love to chew on things.
So Hardy, your newest canine, is a Malinois?
He's a shepherd mouth.
Okay, so he's a mix.
Yes.
So there are certain dogs that seem to have the right temperament and size, of course. You can't have like a little toy poodle. That's not going to do you any good. Although Chihuahuas have an edge to them. You know, it's, at least they think they do. I'd like to see a canine Chihuahua at some point.
Put it in my pocket.
Yeah. But so Malinois are very a popular breed.
Yes.
German Shepherds, and we even have a lab, right?
We have a lab, yeah, black lab.
So are those the breeds right there, or are there different ones as well?
Some others. What's Dutch Shepherd?
Dutch Shepherd.
And the pointer. Some people are doing the German short hair pointer now, which is fun to watch because they actually point when they find their odor. It's really kind of neat to see. You want a large breed dog, large chest, bigger lungs, longer snout, more scent receptors that way. And you need a dog that's over 50 pounds to take down a human if you're going to do any type of bite and apprehension work. But you want that dog that has a hunt drive, a play drive, and then you can manipulate his natural drives to do things that are helpful to us as humans.
Smitty, I was hoping you would bring Hardy with you, but now looking at the size of this room and the size of all of us, it's probably a good thing that he wasn't here.
Yeah, there's a lot of things he would enjoy.
Would he mess up the foam on the wall and the things
he probably
like that?
would. He'd probably go for it.
You could tear into that pretty good,
would
would
he?
he?
Something I can chew on.
So you said you've had him for about a month. What have you learned from him so far about him?
He's very high energy compared to my last dog, Bolo, who he was high energy, but not as much because obviously males have very, very high energy in shepherds. So that aspect of the Malinois is what I see a lot in him. And like I said from earlier, like he loves to work. He's Sergeant Tate, like he loves to search. Like we can be in a very small room, and in his mind he's like, I got to search for something. So it's a good thing because you got a dog that always wants to work, but some days you're just like I just need you to like chill.
It's like, hey man, I just want to watch the game.
Yeah, just go in the backyard and relax. Be a dog. So
let me ask you this: is the dog? Did they kind of determine what kind of a dog they're going to be early in the stages? Like the trainer's like, oh, you're going to be a drug dog, or oh, you're going to be a bomb dog, or can they all just kind of qualify for any of that?
That's a big misconception. Odor is odor. It doesn't matter if it's bomb odor, narcotics odor, human odor. They have dogs now that hunt the little chips that, like a computer chip. Cell phone dogs.
They can smell a computer chip?
Yeah, there's some chemical that's used to process those that you can teach a dog to smell.
Wow.
Same with cell phones. There's something in a cell phone you can teach a dog. A lot of the gels have those. So odor is odor. So what you want for that is a dog who will hunt and who will not stop hunting. And there's some drills that you can do to test that and see, will you hunt for things? And then what happens when you get bored? Do you stop hunting, or do you just keep hunting and hunting and hunting? That's the dog that you want to be an odor detection dog. The particular odor you choose is determined by whoever's going to use the dog. I could have picked out his dog and made it a drug dog just as easily as we could make it a bomb dog. Doesn't matter. We just know that he'll hunt until he dies. That's all he wants to do.
Wow.
And so when you look for that to me, I like that in a bomb dog, one that's really crazy about it, because their searches are typically way longer. A narcotics dog, you're going to search a car or maybe a small house or maybe a hotel room, a bag. This dog has to do that. He's got to do something like the Civic Center, the Ramsey Center over in Silva. We've helped those folks out. The parade route. That's a long, long, long search. So you want a dog who doesn't get bored and who'll keep at it and stay with it.
Does the training continue for the dogs even after it's just nonstop, just like it is for officers?
Yes.
Yeah. I've been doing a lot of that lately.
Yes. I have put in so many hours since I've got this dog in training. Like it is unreal. Like those first stages, especially when, like getting a new dog, like you put in so many hours of training. Just because one, you want to build a bond with the dog. Obviously, you need to know the dog's highs and lows, what they're good at, what they're not good at. So I would almost say like this first 6 to 12 months of dog training is the most crucial part of being a canine handler. You're putting in so many hours of training.
Did you have dogs growing up? I'm going to guess yes.
Yes, yeah. I love dogs. I've always been a dog person. I've pit bulls because everybody else give that pit bulls are dangerous. Every dog I've owned of my own has been a pit bull. Until I became a canine handler, I didn't have my first shepherd, and now I love shepherds. So shepherds and pit bulls are and males, because now I got a male. So
You're welcome.
yes, thank you. So yeah.
Did you grow up in Western North Carolina?
Actually, I grew up in South Carolina, a town called Georgetown, right between Charleston and Myrtle Beach.
I am familiar with it. I've actually been there. I lived in Charleston for about 3 years.
Yeah.
So I know that area pretty decent. It's a beautiful area.
Yeah.
Not too far from the beach.
Nope, not too far.
Got a couple golf courses nearby.
A lot of golf courses.
Yeah, it's the big thing down there. How about you, Sergeant? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Waynesville, so local, lived here my whole life.
All right.
Yeah, always had dogs ever since I was little.
What kind of dogs you have?
My first dog was a bird dog, and then I got a puppy who was half working German Shepherd who accidentally mated with some other Norwegian elkhound.
Accidentally? I think they did it on purpose.
They probably did it on purpose. Their owner did not allow it, but it happened. And so I was able to pick up one of those puppies, and that's kind of what got me into the breed of the working type dogs. After that, I had another bird dog, and when I came here, I had no interest in having dogs. And then one was assigned to the shift I worked on, and I fell in love first shift. I'm like, that is amazing. And just watching that dog work and do the different things it could do, I was blown away, and I thought I've got to do that. And so that became my career mission, and I had no idea that it would be my whole career, basically. It's addictive.
I had dogs growing up, but my wife is a cat person.
Oh, yes.
No chance of a feline division because cats are pretty much useless. They're not going to do anything for you.
No.
So I'm destined for that, at least until I can retire and have some time and have a dog. Because you got to have time.
You do. They take up so much time.
I mean, in a good way, because they're your companions as well as your coworker and all of those things. But I mean, it is, especially for you guys, it is nonstop. What happens when you go on vacation? Do you take the dog with you?
No, I try to
give him to Scott.
We trade off where we can. I mean, you could take the dog. It's just very hard to find somewhere that you could have a working dog, but you need to relax as a handler too and not have that burden of this dog.
True.
And I hate to say the word burden, but it can be a burden if you do it 24/7. So it's nice to have a vacation. We take really good care of each other, and we'll babysit each other's dogs and give them the exercise and the training that they need and keep the dog motivated. The dog doesn't take a day off. He doesn't want a day off. He wants to go. So we just give them things to do and keep them happy and exercised and make their little brains work. And that gives the handlers some time to go away and do something for themselves.
Sergeant Sgt Muse and SPO Smitty join me right now talking about our canines. So the dogs, you kind of alluded to it right there, they can have other handlers. Like they get attached, obviously, to one, like yours, Hardy, to you. Yep. And obviously, Yago to you, but other members of the department can also use the dogs, and they understand.
Well, not necessarily. There's a certain bond that you have to have for the dog to actually listen to you. I could teach you all the words that control the dog. He might listen to you for just a minute, and then he's going to be like, who is this guy? I'm not listening to you.
I get that a lot around here,
yeah,
actually. It's kind of very similar.
So, no, there has to be a bond. And because we all train together a couple of days a month, we have some bond with each of the dogs. Now, like Bolo that he had before, not keeping Bolo. Yeah. Bolo did not like me. There was some type of hatred he had towards me that I can't figure out. But every other dog I'm fine with. So we just pick whoever the dog tends to like the most and who's willing to help out. But it's a responsibility you've got to think about before you do anything, before you add a family member, before you move, before you do anything. It's a lifestyle change. Just the same as when a person becomes a police officer, the lifestyle changes a little. And when they become a canine handler, it changes a little more. So it's quite the commitment.
Is this where you plan on remaining the rest of your career, Smitty, and with the canines? Or is there something else you want to do within the department?
Obviously, one day I'd like to be a supervisor, but I find my home at K9. I'm now part of the ERT, so I found my home there. So I'm I'm in a good spot where I always wanted to be.
So dogs can be funny too. Is there a funny moment that comes to mind with either of yours that just kind of something they did like in an inappropriate moment or something along those lines?
Not Hardy yet. I'm pretty sure that day will come.
Yet.
I know my last dog, Bolo, I know he ate my lunch one day while I was on a call for service, which I was very hungry that day, and it was like 2 o'clock in the day. So I went and got a chicken sandwich from Bojangles on Airport Road. And when I got done with the call, I was like, well, I'm going to go have lunch. I quickly realized my lunch wasn't where I left it at before I got out the car. And I looked back in the kennel, and the only reason why I normally keep the kennel door closed, but while I was at Bojangles, they didn't want to see him, so I slid the door open so they can see him. Well, I guess I didn't close the door back all the way. Well, while I was on that call for service, guess he found his way into the passenger seat, stole my sandwich, ate it. But he did leave me the tomato, so that's a story I always tell, and people always kind of get a crack out of that one.
I mean, you can't blame the dog for that.
I mean, I couldn't be mad. I was mad, but
well,
I
at the time,
it was like,
did you get another sandwich from it?
Yeah, I had to go get another one.
How about you with Yago?
Oh, with Yago, recently I've had to put a baby gate in the office because if I let him range freely, he will find whatever door is open. He's brought me a boot. He brought me another sergeant's jacket the other day. It was hanging on his desk. Anything that smells like a human being, this dog thinks, I'll have to bring it to Dad. And he'll go retrieve it, bring it back, and then he looks at me like, where's my toy? Where's my toy? He loves to retrieve. So that's been an ongoing battle with him. I'm on my third dog. My other dog on a traffic stop, Boris, the dog I had before, scared me to death because my siren starts going off on a traffic stop, and he decided to do the same thing. He opened the door to see what was going on, stands in the middle, and he's manipulating the lights and siren, and it's kind of funny in the moment. It's a good way to get somebody out of a ticket, I suppose. 'Cause I'm like, just go.
Listen, I got to deal with this dog.
I have other problems. Slow down.
I got things with the dog.
Yeah, they're all really funny and have their own little quirks and personalities, and they're all so different, which is kind of neat to see. You would think they would be, kind of all the same militant way or something, but they're not. They're all very disciplined, but they're all just quirky in their own way.
So we have another couple of dogs coming our way, I understand.
We do
right?
have another one coming. He should be here in about 30 days or so. We have a canine process that's open. The applicants have their name in, and they're going to be interviewed fairly soon.
So how many people applied for that?
I believe 3 people applied.
Just 3?
Yeah.
I expected more.
There's so many restrictions about how long you've been here, your living arrangements, the commitment to the dog. We ask you that you commit to the working life of the dog, which can be, in my case, Yago's 12 years in. Mm-hmm. That's a long time to commit your career.
So a lot of people think they want to be a part of the canine, but maybe they don't realize the commitment?
Yeah, it's the responsibility.
Yeah.
Okay? It's like when the camera's on, you see all the glamour, and when it goes off, people don't see the behind the scenes of what it takes to get there. And then when you start telling people about it, they're like, yeah, maybe I'll think about this, because it's a lot of work.
It sounds like a great idea to have a dog, but it's not just having a dog.
I tell people it's a 24-hour job, 365 days a year job.
A lot of training, a lot of work. My dog threw up in the car this morning. Who's going to clean that out? That would be me.
I think that'd be you.
Yeah, nobody tells you that. We don't advertise that part. So.
I think that's a good point to end on right there. Let's end with that right there. So, Sergeant Scott Muse, Smitty, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
Joining me now, welcome to John Perez, Property and Evidence Manager. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Rick. I love being here. Thank you so much for the invite.
You've got a little bit of history in kind of this universe, right? Weren't you in TV back in the day?
I was. I started, believe it or not, when I was 16. If I may tell you the quick version of this.
Yeah, you tell the long version.
I was in high school, and I was the sports editor of our high school paper.
And where's that?
This was down in West Palm Beach, Florida.
Okay.
The editor of the paper was a senior, and he was getting ready to graduate and go off to college, and he worked at the local NBC affiliate or station there in West Palm.
Okay.
He said, hey, they're looking for somebody to replace me, and are you interested? And I'm like, sure. And it was for more of like a production assistant, kind of a gopher thing. So I went and interviewed and I got the job. I was 16, just about going on 17.
Wow.
And this was back when, if people remember back in the day when stations at like midnight or 1 o'clock would go to color bars, they'd sign off. This is going way. This is like 1980. 2.
Oh, I
or something
remember
like
that growing up.
It's
man.
crazy.
We'd go to this black and white photo, and at least in our network, it was a picture of a Native American.
Yeah.
With a weird looking diagram, but with black and white and whatever, and you do the national anthem.
Yeah, and then it would just sign off.
And then that's it. We'll see you tomorrow.
You're done. Yeah, that's it. So I went and interviewed for the job, and I got it, and it was on the weekends. And I ended up working every day because it was only a Saturday, Sunday thing. And it was, believe it or not, you're going to laugh at this, it was assignment editor position on the weekends.
For a 16-year-old kid.
Exactly. And
what did you know about it?
Exactly. I was like, what am I doing? So they would have the assignment editor during the week would have a folder and just community events and story ideas and things. And my job on Saturday morning was to come in and look at the folder. And then I had 2 reporters and 2 cameramen, a daytime and then a night beat. And then I would assign, a 16-year-old would assign stories. Hey, I need you to go out in this. We had police scanners, so I had to do police checks. I had to call all the police stations during the morning and say, hey, did anything happen last night? And they're like, oh, yeah, well, we, occasionally you'd say, oh, we had a homicide or something.
Yeah.
And so it was after the fact. So you would send a crew out and at least get some footage of the street or just something and get an interview with but it was, I couldnn't believe that a 16, 17-year-old. So I kind of got thrown into that and I had to learn on my feet and then run the teleprompter and stuff. Well, it also ended up going to the morning show now. Back then, the morning show was only a half an hour. Now you look at news in the morning, it starts at 4:30 in the morning and runs up till 7 o'clock when the national people take over.
Hours and hours worth.
Yeah, so this was a half-hour show. So I would get up at 4 in the morning, go to the station, which was locked. They gave me a key and an alarm code. I would open the door, turn the alarm off. That was the only car in the parking lot. Start making the coffee, rip the wires. If you remember back in the day, we had the teletype wires.
Oh, yeah.
So I had to rip all that and organize it for the people when they were coming in, the anchor and the producer, and then make my police checks and have everything ready. And then I'd run the teleprompter, and then I'd go to school. As soon as we went off the air at 7, I'd drive to school.
That is wild. That is just in a way, it sounds similar to a job I had in Evansville, Indiana, that I actually had to drive to Illinois an hour through cornfields because it was in the process of an LMA. So it had been purchased and they were building new studios.
Right.
And so I moved to Evansville, but for the first 6 months or so, you got to drive to Illinois. It's basically kind of like a glorified trailer and it was the same thing, right? In the middle of nowhere, had to pull all the teletype, do all this all by myself, and you'd hear noises.
It's crazy.
You're always now I was a little more than 16 at the time, but to get a start like that.
It was crazy.
Nobody gets a job like that anymore.
Well, I think it's unheard of now. You can't with everything.
It does not happen
just doesn't
now.
exist.
But
it's just a different time.
Even back then, it's pretty wild. It's I got a buddy that.
Hey, they're looking for somebody. Yeah.
I think I might know a guy. But that's a great start. That's a great origin story, And so you continued to pursue that, in college?
I did. I stayed with the station and went through, high school, graduated. And then in college, I stayed local for a little bit. And then I ended up getting a job down in Miami and then commuting every day to, what was the station? Oh, Univision. What was the Univision station down there?
I mean, you started at a big market with a big station, which is unheard of.
Yep. And so they had a separation, a coup, you call it, when a bunch of people left Univision and they started their own network, which now is Telemundo.
Right.
This is going way back. And so the guy that hired me said, look, this is a freelance thing only. So for now, so don't quit your job. So I stayed at the station at NBC.
I would hearing that.
Yeah,
Jeez.
I know.
Don't quit your job. We're not sure how long you got it.
So I would still do my thing at the NBC station in the morning, and then I was in college, so I took a year off. And then what I did was at 7 o'clock in the morning, when I finished the morning show there, I'd get in my car and drive to Miami, and then work a full day down there.
Oh man!
So I was doing that for several months, and then they finally hired me full time for the national news. I was doing some assignment editing, and then I did some satellite because we'd have reporters from all over the world sending their feeds for their stories.
Oh yeah!
So it was pretty interesting. Yeah, I did that for a year, and then they left for California, and I'm like, I don't want to move to California. I'm gonna stay.
What brought you to Asheville?
So I'm from Jersey. I like the cold weather. I know people look at me kind of weird.
No, I mean I get it. I'm from Buffalo, so I always tell people that when I lived in Charleston, it was the most miserable I'd ever been in my life.
Yeah.
The heat and humidity was just soul-sucking.
It's brutal. And so when my parents immigrated in the early 60s here from Cuba, and they were fleeing communist Cuba at the time, and they got here, and my dad got a job in New Jersey, so that's where they moved. And then I was born in 1965, and we were in New Jersey for till the mid-'70s, and then they just decided to move to Florida. Then my mom couldn't take the cold weather.
So why did they go to Jersey instead of Florida for the first? Because there's a huge Cuban population in
There
South
was,
Florida.
but not at that time.
Okay.
If you know, it's funny. I look back at history, and Miami really wasn't a lot of Hispanics back in the 60s.
So that's been more recently.
Yeah, over the course of going into maybe the late
Last few
60s,
decades,
early
and-
70s.
Okay.
But my dad was a worker, and he wanted to get the first. And he had they had some friends in New Jersey that had also had a while. They had already been here a little bit, and he called him. He said, "Hey, I got work up here," and my dad said, "Like, I'm going where the work is." So we were up there. I was born up there, and I still have a big, I still have family up there. I'm a Jersey. I always consider myself a Jersey guy. I'm a Jersey guy. But we moved to Florida in 1976, 77. So I basically grew up down there. I didn't like the heat. I just, it wasn't for me. I always liked to change the season.
Yeah.
I met my wife, who actually worked at the NBC station. She actually had a 36-year career there. And her family had ties to Jackson County. And we started dating, and I came up with her for a family wedding. It's the first time I'd ever been to Western Carolina. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my God, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
I want to live here.
Uh-huh.
So for 30 plus years, we were coming up and spending holidays up here and whatnot. And I kept telling her, someday I want to move up here. Someday I want to move up here. So when we got to the point where we retired, our decision was we're going to figure out a way, and so we ended up getting a house up here, and in 2022, I retired and she retired, and we moved up here full time. And I'm on my 5th year, and I still commute back and forth from here to my house, and I'm still looking around pinching myself. It's like, I can't believe I finally live here. It's
But
so beautiful.
you retired and came here, and clearly you are now not retired.
Right.
So you,
Got to do something.
you unretired.
I did, yeah, unretired. And
So what made you think of this type of work? This is nothing like what you did before.
It's kind of funny because I've talked to some people that work here, and they made this drastic career change, and they did one thing and then went to the other, and I get that, where people say, "Wait a minute, you worked in broadcasting and then you just decided to go into law enforcement?" And I'm like, yeah, I know it's kind of a weird transition, and you can probably attest to this, towards the end, that business just got so corporate.
It wears you down too.
It just wears you down. And I'm
Yeah,
like, you know what? I'm just kind of tired of this. I need to go do something else.
Mm-hmm.
And I did have a bunch of my friends who were in law enforcement, and I started kind of picking their brain. And I thought, that's kind of an exciting line of work. I know it's dangerous, and a lot of them were trying to talk me out of it, but, I had my sights set to it. So when I was 30, I went to the police academy and got a job, and I guess the rest is history. It's been a wonderful career. I loved law enforcement. I wish I would have started it earlier, but as far as coming here and doing the property stuff, when I was I retired, I was fortunate enough to kind of work my way up and retired as a captain. But when I was a lieutenant in criminal investigations, we had property. I was over that for a little bit.
Okay.
So when I was looking for something to do up here, I said, hey, look, Asheville PD's got a property position, and I'm sort of familiar with that. Every agency's different, how they do things. But I figured, well, I got a little bit of a head start because I kind of know what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
And so I applied for it, and here I am.
I feel your history. It's not as weird to you or to me,
Right.
as maybe to people on the outside that they kind of choose a profession, whereas they may move a little bit around within
Right.
that.
Right.
They're,
Right.
they're still
Exactly.
in the same universe that they started, right?
Exactly.
Whereas you were broadcasting, I was broadcasting, and then you take a complete just left turn and
Yeah.
just go to somewhere else.
Yeah.
I mean, in my case, it started by running a brewery. After a quarter century in radio, that was a complete change. And then I came back into broadcasting, but having left once,
Right.
it kind of told me, yeah, you can just do this again, and just
Yeah.
translatable skills being what they are. And so I've been here for a little over 2 years, obviously not as long, but completely different, but still some of the things you acquired are usable.
Exactly.
I'm going from the other side now. Instead of being a member of the media and talking with people like police departments and public, now I'm the other way around.
Yeah.
But I get the relationship stuff. right? And I get all that. And so it's just turning that around.
Exactly. And, I like to think that over the course of my 5 years, almost 5 years here now, I've gotten to a point where we've really have established that relationship with the officers. I know sometimes I'm sending them emails saying, hey, I need you to come in and fix this. But they do now just in general stop by and, on their way in or out, and they stop for a second, they wave, or we'll talk sports, or something that's interesting. Or so it's been a nice transition in that when I first started here, they're like, who's this guy? And then so I've tried to, and the staff that we have down there also, they do a great job because we're kind of behind the scenes. If there's a unit in this agency that's really behind the scenes, it's us.
I was just about to say that, actually. It's like no one talks about property and evidence until there's something
wrong. Exactly.
It's almost like being an offensive lineman in football.
Yeah.
If they don't say your name, that means you're doing your job.
You're doing your job. You block that person. But if somebody gets there and sacks the quarterback.
And there they have it. If there's a piece of evidence missing in a case and it's vital to that, you're going to be pretty famous in a hurry.
It can get really stressful down there. Knock on wood, we haven't had any problems, but which is wonderful. But there's still kind of that moment where you're like, okay, so what happened to this? And you research it, and okay, we found it. It's here. It's just it was moved to another location or something. But it is nerve-wracking. You're kind of you're in that. Boring is good.
Sure.
Boring is wonderful.
Yeah.
And I think you and I have talked about boring. We like boring.
Yeah, boring is great.
We don't like excitement.
Big fan. Huge fan of
Yes.
boring. I mean, because if you're bored, that means nothing's going on that's really wrong, and that's great.
Come in Monday morning and leave Friday, and what was your week? It was boring, and that's
and
great.
I loved it. There is times you say to yourself, it's been slow or whatever. We're like, but as soon as you say that, that's the jinx.
Yes. And it's funny, when I was on patrol, we used to have, I'm sure it still exists everywhere, but you'd be a car to car with your partner, your zone partner or something, and they would say, man, it's been, and I'm like, don't say it. Don't say it. But somebody would sometimes slip it in there.
Man,
and sure enough, within a couple hours, the radio alert tone, and it was just all heck was breaking loose.
Talking about the no-hitter, man.
This is your fault.
You don't do it. This is all you. You brought this on, Ricky Bobby.
Yep.
So property and evidence is exactly what it sounds like, right? You guys handle all of the, and it's almost like in some ways, lost and found too. You've got people, you've lost and found items. Heck, we had a prosthetic leg that was quite the story.
We did.
A couple of years ago. That was a fun one to tell.
That was an interesting one. We had...
Everyone's wondering, how do you lose a leg?
Right, I know. When you walk around a warehouse, you kind of look for something that's kind of odd. And really, at that point, the only thing that, people would say, what's the weirdest thing you have? And I would use the kitchen sink kind of saying, because we actually have a kitchen sink from a very old case. Yeah. And I'd say, everything but the kitchen sink, we have the kitchen sink. Until then, until that officer came up to the window one day with this prosthetic leg, and we just looked at him. We all kind of looked at him, and we're like, you've got to be kidding me. And he just kind of shook his head and said, nope. That was an interesting one. So for a little bit, that was kind of the odd thing in the warehouse.
I mean, we're going to assume that it wasn't on the gentleman's leg when he lost it.
No.
So it could be lost a different way. It could be stolen. It could be something else. And they're very expensive.
Extremely expensive.
And that was a custom one too.
It was. And that officer did a really good job with the, because there's serial numbers on there, and talked to the local prosthetic folks here in Asheville, and they kind of were able to trace it.
It turns out that universe is highly regulated, and they keep track of everything, kind of like you.
Yeah,
it's you're dealing with a lot of stuff. I guess is the best way to describe your job.
We have just south of 60,000 items in that warehouse, and it varies from evidence where an officer classifies it as evidence to it could be found. Somebody knocks on the door and says, hey, I just found this wallet out on the street. And then we take it. Yeah. So, we do our best to try to locate that person and say, hey, we have your wallet, come get it. It's a lot to manage, but we have a wonderful system down there. It's a system that was established prior to my arrival. I mean, I'm very proud to say this, but, we are a gold standard with regards to statewide property and evidence, and we're credited, as you know. And there's a reason for that, is because the agency's got to adhere to certain standards, and the security, custody and control, it comes in, it leaves the same way it came in, and we take a lot of pride in that.
As I'm sure you know, though, it wasn't always that way.
It wasn't.
There was a pretty big issue we had. It's been now over 20 years. I was living in Asheville at the time when I remember that. And so that's, it takes a long time to regain trust, and I believe it's been done.
It has. And, interesting, I just a little comment that was made. I was, they do the Citizens Police Academy, and Captain Brown has property and evidence as a part of the segment of, actually, I think it was like a week ago or so, I had my little segment and explained all our security, what we do. We have a 2-person rule, not one. If I need to go to the back, I have to have another person with me in one of the other techs to scan the door to get in, things like that. And I was explaining little things like that. And I'm assuming that this lady was privy to all that happened way back when. And she said, after the presentation, she goes, I feel much better now that you said all that stuff, because I was a little worried because of what happened way back when. It's nice to see that that's what's going on right now at APD with regards to property. And I thought, no, that's a good sign that people are noticing that. And
that you've done your job, essentially.
Yeah.
It's just like, listen, I and my team have done our jobs if we've regained the trust of the community after something like that.
Yeah.
Did you mention, as when you were giving your presentation, that occasionally you'll get things in there like human things?
Yeah.
I remember it wasn't that long ago. It was last summer, I believe it was. So you guys are it's the first floor, which is weird. This building's weird.
Yeah.
I call it the basement.
We're in the basement. That's what I call it.
But it's the first floor.
Right.
And it is, if you come in from the back of the building, it's the first floor.
Yeah.
But it appears to be the basement in a way.
I was a little bit of a maze. It was a maze for me when I first started.
Oh, for
I was
everybody.
Like, I have to go to the public information desk. Oh, that's on the 3rd floor. And I'm like, okay, hit the elevator. Go. Where am I going?
Well, you've got one elevator in the front that goes up two floors technically, but it goes from the 3rd to the 4th. You're like, what? It doesn't. There's a lot of half things going on here because the building itself, it's over 100 years old, and it wasn't always this, of course. It was an open air market and had all these different things, and they kind of remodeled it like 8 times. But I remember walking down right past your office at one point, and I'm like, what? What is that?
That's happened a few times.
I'm like, that's a dead body.
Yeah.
Why was it still in there?
Well, it's
then I saw the hazmat tape.
Yeah. We have drying cabinets that are accessible to forensics and officers that bring things that are wet, or they have blood on it or whatever, and it sits in the drying cabinet for a week or two. But apparently, the one that you're referring to, that one was a homicide, and they had some clothing in there, and immediately, had people from like upstairs coming down and going, "What is that smell?" And we're like, "Well, it's this," and so we had to call. There's a company that we called out, and they sealed the door, and we had some fans and things, and we were able to. But it gets in the air vents.
Oh
and
gosh,
you're like, oh God.
The only comparison that I had it to is one time in a crawl space under one of the houses I owned, there was a dead critter. I mean, it's the smell of death. I hate to say it, but it is very recognizable. There's nothing like it.
I remember when I was on patrol and I get called for a welfare check. We haven't seen her or him in a few days. The mail's popping up.
Before you open the door, you're like,
you're in your car driving. They're going, I think I know what this is.
Yeah,
sure enough.
Geez.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you mentioned obviously your family being from Cuba and all of that, which kind of ties in nicely to one of your additional jobs right now. So not only are you the manager of property and evidence, but based on the retirement of Sonia Escobedo, which was just a few weeks ago. And
wonderful.
A great person, and we wish her the best.
Yeah.
And the turnout for her retirement is evidence of the respect that she has garnered around this.
She's so great.
It's like half of the force was here.
I told her, I said, you got to come back at some point. She's like, I might come back, maybe. But
so she was our Spanish translation approval person for, I guess, 2, 3, 4, 5 months, whatever it was, which is something we only recently started doing, basically this year. I think maybe in December or something along those lines, which I think is a great idea, right?
Absolutely.
So the Spanish community can see the press release without having to go get somebody that speaks
Translate it.
Translate themselves or do whatever they do within the thing. So it's right there for them on our social media. We don't put it in our releases that we send out to the local media, but we do indicate a Spanish translation is available on our social media. And so we need someone. AI is great, right? And it is. And it does a good job. But not perfect.
Right.
So we need someone that knows the language to take a look at it and make sure that is this good? So the process goes, I write the release, it goes through all of our approvals, and when it is finally done, we attach the Spanish translation, thank you, Google Gemini or whatever it is, right? So then I've got to get a hold of you and say, John, here it is, the Spanish translation. How's it look?
Right.
And I think so far one of them has been accurate.
They're pretty good. You just kind of massage a couple words here and there, but I think overall it's been pretty smooth.
So what is the biggest thing they get wrong? Masculine, feminine in the world of...
So it's the masculine, feminine, the
Okay.
A or the O. Occasionally it's for some reason, they'll put a comma. When we were talking about pounds and things, they'll put a comma next to the number. I'm like, well, that should be a period because then it looks like it's 16,000 as
Right.
opposed to. But little things like that. It's overall, it's been really it's good, but just little tweaks here and there.
But we need a human to look at it, right?
Yeah.
And it ain't going to be me because even though I took 3 years of Spanish, that was in grades 10, 11, and 12.
Right.
Which would make it about 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And as you know, if you don't use it, it's gone.
You lose it, absolutely.
And I was actually relatively fluent, basic fluent, not like I could just walk into Madrid and just be able to speak with everyone. We had a program where we would go to local elementary schools and we would give them the basics. So you teach them the numbers, the colors, the things like that. And so it got to be, I was pretty decent at it. But I'm telling you, just a couple of years later, it's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, I can now tell you a couple of colors, a few numbers, and if someone is speaking it, I'll pick up a word or two. But I couldn't get the general gist.
Right.
So you're fluent.
I'm fluent to some degree, but the thing about Spanish, there's a bunch of different dialects. Like one particular nationality might not be the same way another nationality says it.
And it's a regional thing, even within a country
is,
as well.
Exactly.
I spoke about that with Sgt Martinez. So he's from a very specific part
of Spain. Spain.
Yeah, and other dialects come from other parts of that country. And it's not that big of a country, to be honest with
Right.
you.
Beautiful country.
Yeah, and he loves going back there for the food and
Yeah.
everything like that.
Yeah.
But he told me, he goes, there's dialect changes.
There's dialect changes. There's certain words that is very common. I found this out like the hard way, I guess, but unintentional. There's certain words that mean different things where you use a word that's very common, but then another nationality may look at that word as something more vulgar, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you always have to be careful who you're speaking with
Yeah.
and kind of keep it basic, because especially when you're speaking with another Spanish person.
Well, and then there's slang, too.
And it's kind of
I mean, look at here in America. I mean, I can't keep up with what the kids are saying these days, like the Generation Alpha or whoever they are. And even just regions of our country. Let's take the example of, down here, y'all. Okay, well, where I was from in Buffalo, it was you guys. We would say you guys. We could even be talking directly to a female or a group of females, and I would still say you guys.
Right.
That's just what you say. Pittsburgh would say yins or yins guys. There's histories to all these things we won't get into, but they just do. And I'm sure other parts of the country say other things. So you take another language and they're going to have the same thing.
Sure. The South, the North, it's a dialect, it's a slang, and it's hard to keep up. It's hard to keep up, so you just kind of try to stay in your lane, and you learn as you go. But yeah, I mean, I had a hard time when I was working down in Miami because you have the Cuban population, but you have the Mexican population, and so it's if you're writing something, it's not, well, you don't say it that way, you say it this way, and you're like, all right, I didn't know that. So you kind of teach me the way to do it. So.
Do you have friends and family that you speak with in Spanish or no?
Okay, yeah, some, not a lot. Like I have an aunt in Puerto Rico, and I talk to her once in a while and whatnot. And with my mom, I'd lost my mom last year, but my mom, that's all we spoke was Spanish. So, and my dad, and so at home growing up, we spoke Spanish. I mean, my parents knew how to speak English, but it was more comfortable for them. I'll tell you one funny thing that I always could kick myself, how I didn't learn Italian. Because when I was growing up in New Jersey, I lived in a predominantly Italian. All my friends were Italian, and I was going to their houses for dinner and stuff. They would invite me over.
So you probably picked up phrases.
A little bit here and there. And I'm like, Italian and Spanish have some similar, very little.
Romance languages.
But sometimes you pick up somebody if somebody's speaking Italian, you pick up a word and you're like, oh, I know what that is because that sounds kind of Spanish. And so I could always kick myself. I'm like, man, I could have learned Italian. Grew up all around it, and I just was kind of lazy about it. But
you would have had another one.
I know.
Tool in your tool belt there.
Right.
Property and Evidence Manager John Perez is with us now. Another reason I brought you in here is because right now today, as we speak, record this, and it's just about to end, it's National Hurricane Preparedness Week. Now, for most people around here, that is going to mean stocking up on batteries and water and all those. But if I say the word hurricanes to you, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
There's a lot of things that come to mind.
If you say anything other than hockey, you're lying.
It's funny. Towards the last couple of years of my career down at the sheriff's office, I was the EOC coordinator for the department. So we're in May now. I would have probably started in April, preparing all the agency for June 1st, man. It was a thing. Every year we had to make sure all our equipment was ready. And I was spending time in EOC a lot during those storms. We had quite a few of them when I was down there. It's one of those things that you get used to. It's funny. I talk about one of my coworkers. She's from Kansas, and they deal with tornadoes.
Yeah, I lived in Joplin, Missouri, which is right there in Tornado Alley. We had one rip right through my apartment complex one time.
Yeah, and
those things are fierce,
it's
man.
crazy. And they just had a bunch of stuff going on the last couple of weeks ago.
Hey, hurricanes let you know they're coming.
At least hurricanes, you kind of have a feeling of
for a couple of weeks. Sometimes you know they're coming.
Yeah,
tornadoes are out of nowhere.
Yeah,
scary.
It's a lot of preparedness, but at least you kind of get a heads up. And in California, you got the earthquakes, and you're like, it just happens. So, yeah, I will say that as far as hurricane season, I'd almost rather take hurricane season because at least you know it's coming, or at least you can get ready for it.
Let's talk about the other kind of hurricane, though, as it's also not just Hurricane Preparedness Week, but Stanley Cup hockey season.
Oh, man, I tell you what.
Even your lanyard is the Carolina Hurricanes.
That's right.
We talk about hockey a lot because we're some of the hockey fans.
You are my sports psychologist, by the way. I need to tell people that. I see Rick in the gym. He's a Sabres fan. I'm a Hurricanes fan. But whenever we make eye contact after the night before a game or the day after a game, earpods come off and we're like, what'd you think?
What happened there?
What happened there?
But your team, you haven't even lost a game in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Looking good. If we get to play in the next round, and by the time this thing is released, we'll probably know. That'll mean we're still alive.
Yeah.
And as a growing up hockey fan in Buffalo, which is a hockey town, we went 14 years for some people that don't know this and don't care, but 14 years without the playoffs is a long drought for a diehard fan to not have playoff hockey. And so this year, the Sabres are back, had a great year. And so hopefully it will be Buffalo and Carolina in the Eastern Conference
And we
Finals.
are still going to talk to each other during that series.
Absolutely, we will. I'm not one of those guys. I mean, although I kind of do remember the last time we played and you guys went to the Stanley Cup. Who remembers things like that?
Yeah, right.
It's kinda,
who hangs on to stuff like that?
I mean, our entire defensive core got injured, and we were pulling up guys from the minors and still leading in the third period of Game 7 and ended up losing, and you guys won the stat. But nobody.
But you're not holding on to it.
We let these things go. We just let these things go. But good luck to you.
Water under the bridge.
Yeah, good luck to your team until they play my team.
Yeah. Yeah, I was looking at that bracket. I'm like, man, if Buffalo beats Montreal and we win this series,
I mean,
it'll be an interesting conversation we'll have in the gym.
We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens there. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Enjoy the conversation. Property and Evidence Manager John Perez. Go Sabres.
Go Hurricanes. Come on. You caught me off guard there.
I did, didn't I? That does it for another episode of the APD Pod Squad. Thank you to my guests, Captain Joe Silberman, K-9 Unit Officers Sgt Scott Muse, and Senior Police Officer 2 Nathaniel Smitty Smith, and Property and Evidence Manager John Perez. And of course, thank you for listening. Couldn't do it without you. If you've got a question or a topic you'd like discussed or someone you'd like to hear from as a guest, don't be bashful. Call 828-250-8800 and leave a voicemail. That's 828-250-8800. You can email too. That's apdpodcastfeedback@asheville.nc.gov. It's a long one, so I'll say it again. apdpodcastfeedback@asheville.nc.gov. Listen and subscribe now wherever you get your podcasts and don't miss a single episode. Do us a favor, leave a 5-star review. Help get the word out. Tell a friend. I'm Rick Rice, and this is the APD Pod Squad.
Mountains